We're good. Okay. Wasn't paying attention. Phil and Will are back. That's a good way to start. Wasn't paying attention at all. Today we're doing a winners rankings. If you were familiar with, if you've been following us since the beginning, we did a season rankings in the off season between San Juan del Sur and Worlds Apart. Now we're going to be doing a winners rankings. I mean, it seems like we've wanted to do this for a while. So pretty much we did the same thing. We each made a list. We compiled them, added up the scores. We're going to go from number 30 to number 1. It's a nicer number than 29 to 1. And it's going to be a two-parter. So don't expect the top 10, maybe even the top 15 today. We're on a little clock here, so it's going to be a two-part episode.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I would want to say before we get going is that all these people won the game, and there has to be someone ranked last. There has to be someone ranked 25th. We're dealing with winners here, so just keep that in mind. It's hard. I mean, they all played. I don't think Phil or I even think none of these players deserve to win. They all deserve to win because they ended up winning. But there's certainly winners that are better than others, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, Tom Westman said at the Heroes versus Villains finale, if you won your season, you did something right, and you deserve to win your season. That's 100% what happens here. And, I'm sure there's going to be some angry people at where we have some of these. But, we ranked them. We tried to – it's hard to rank winners. Even though, we came up with this list, we had some who were the same, and then we had some that we disagreed by over 10 positions on. So, it's not like, we even came to really, a good agreement, even though we just talk about Survivor all the time, and that's really the only reason we even talk to each other. So, I guess let's start it off on the – oh, go ahead.
I just think maybe get into the criteria we used a bit, because there's a couple ways to look at. Do you look at the winner's game, just that game? Do you look at them over the multiple seasons they've played? Do you take into account how much you like them as a person? I think we used the same thing. I didn't really take into account whether I liked them or not. I looked at their winning game. So JT, for instance, he sent Russell an idol in Heroes vs. Villains. Not a good move, but I look at his winner season only when I'm ranking him as a winner. That was his first season. And then players that have returned, I take into account not how they played in their prior seasons, but how many times they played before their winning season. So does that make sense, Phil?
I did the same thing. So, yeah, that does make sense. It's hard not to take into account when somebody like Rob's played 4 times, somebody like Tyson's played 3 times before they won the game. So it's kind of hard to not take that into account. But I didn't take into account what happened on another season. It's just if you played 4 times, you had a little bit more of a learning curve. And that's kind of why on these seasons where we get some returning players and some newbies, I think that's why a lot of times the newbies don't do as well, and the returning players either make it deep in the game or win. We've seen numerous times. Somebody like Coach gets all the way to the end. You get Rob gets all the way to the end and wins. Jonathan Penner got further in the game than he'd ever gotten. It's just it's always like that. Scooping got all the way to the end. I feel like when you have these newbies versus returning players, the returning players have learned something.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing to think about is every time it's been half newbies, half returnees, a returnee has won. There's been 3 cases of this: Fancers Favorites 1, Fancers Favorites 2, and Blood vs. Water 1. Every time, small sample size, I guess, but 3 for 3 returnees are taking the win. Okay, do you want to get started here? Number 30.
Yeah, let's start with number 30, and we both agreed on this one. So they got 60 points because they finished 30th and 30th. And 30th place, we have Amber. And I don't think too many people would be surprised with having Amber that low with the kind of debacle that All-Stars really was.
Yeah, it's funny when you say, the winner of All-Stars. It sounds like such an impressive title. But when you really think about it, this was the 8th season of the show. There had only been 7 seasons prior. So we really weren't dealing with that big of All-Stars here. They were really, scraping to get people to play. Amber was borderline an all-star. She didn't even do much in Australia. I don't think a winner has ever done this little to warrant a win. Not that she didn't deserve it, but no winner has done just relied so much on other people and not taking her game and owning it.
Yeah, it really comes down to Rob said, "Hey, save Amber for me." and she got saved, and Rob really just was ruthless the second half of the game, making everybody believe that like they actually had a chance to go to the end. And he really owned it. I mean, Amber won one immunity challenge the entire time and then gets to the end. And if that jury wasn't so freaking bitter, I think Kathy was the only one who really like kind of forgave Rob and actually voted for him to win, like, you know, out of the people he really screwed over. But Lex was bitter. Tom was bitter. I mean, they were so hateful at this guy. He deserved – that should have been the time he won, and we probably wouldn't have seen him play 4 times.
Yeah. If we were doing – these are winners rankings. But if we're going to do gameplay rankings – or just best games, I think I include Rob's All-Star, like probably in the top 5, maybe even number 1. Like he scores, you know, a hot wife, gets them both to the final 2, guaranteeing that they're going to start their marriage with $1 million and like some fame and celebrity. Like I think, and that is exactly what you said. Like he saved Amber and then pissed everyone off, took all the heat, brought her to the end. She won, and he hops on, marries her. Like that's just I mean, that's how you play.
I completely agree, and I'm not really a big Boston Rob fan. I just rewatched Marquesas. He is funny. I see what he was doing. He was thinking ahead. He was before his time in Marquesas. The game was slowly starting to develop in Marquesas, and Rob was like early there. His All-Stars game is fantastic. I just didn't like they bring him back for Heroes vs. Villains. Then we got to watch him again in Redemption Island. We got too much Boston Rob because production just loved him. I mean, Jeff Probst adores him, and you can't really fault him. He's great TV. CBS like loves the guy. I mean, how many times did he play The Amazing Race and Survivor? I mean, it's ridiculous how much the guy's been on TV. But yeah, like you said, if this was just based on gameplay, he would be right near the top. But it's funny to think that he would be right near the top, and the winner of this season, who he brings all the way to the end, is right there at the bottom of the best winners.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, is there? I would love to hear a case that says someone played a worse game than Amber and won. Like, I just don't think any winner. I think every other winner has done more to, you know, get the W than Amber. She even said it in her tribal council speech, like luck, a lot of luck. I think that was, you know, smarter for appealing to the jury. That's what they kind of wanted to hear. But it's not like she's a terrible player, but definitely bottom winner.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where you look at All Stars, and I forget somebody always talks about it. I know Rob Cesternino talks about it a lot, but when these people came into the show, so many people had bigger targets on their back. And then you had the people with the smaller targets like Amber. She had like no target on her back. Jenna Lewis had like no target on her back. Like, who was gunning for them? The whole first half. Yeah, the whole first half of All Stars is people trying to get rid of the winners. That's all they wanted to do the first half of the game. So, you know, to sit there and you see Amber win it, it's like, yeah, she won All-Stars, but she was probably the 18th person on the All-Stars list, or 17. Maybe Jenna Lewis got on because of her, you know, little tape that she made and all that fun stuff. But, you know, who knows? Amber. I don't know. I don't see why she was out.
We can move. We
go
can
to the
move
next.
Okay. We have Bob at 29, which I'm kind of surprised about. I guess it's kind of weird because I had Bob. I mean, I didn't have him high by any means, but I had Bob at 26th on my winners list, and then you also had Bob at 26th. So it's kind of weird that he's now falls to 29. Well,
like it's because this was one of those things where we disagreed on so many people that when we have Bob at 26, and this is a strange case for me because with Bob, he was my favorite of Gabon from day one. Gabon is a top 10 season for me. I wanted Bob to win the entire time, and I sit here and have him as the 26th best winner on my list, and he ends up 29th on our compiled list. And it's so strange to me because you said at the beginning, if we took into account how much you like the guy, Bob would be near the top because he's really one of the only people I've ever liked from day one who went on to win the game.
Yeah, I'm still shocked. I don't know how that makes sense. We both have him at 26. He ends up at 29. We must have a lot of disagreements coming up. So I guess look forward to that. But Bob, yeah, great guy, likable guy. He didn't really have his head in the game the whole time. And Gabon was such a crazy kind of mess of a season. It was fun. I loved the season in my top 5. But he kind of backwards his way into this victory a little bit. Sugar needed to force a tie at Final Tribal. And, I mean, if it weren't for, like, Sugar being emotionally just a roller coaster the whole season, he probably doesn't make it to the final tribal council, and he probably, he doesn't win.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this season is he was also overshadowed by huge personalities. I mean, you had Corinne, Randy, Sugar, Maddie was big, Ken, Crystal, like huge personalities, like huge. Ace was in your face the whole entire time. GC, like this was a crazy cast, and you had Bob as the oldest. He's the oldest winner ever. He's the oldest guy out there on the island. He stayed under the radar. He made the greatest fake idol still. Joe's was up there, but Bob's is still the best fake idol. I mean, when he got Randy to play it, he did have his moves, and he always, like, what I liked about Bob's game was that he always had to overcome the adversity. It's just that he was also helped out a lot on this season where there were so many tribe swaps and there was so much other craziness that wasn't in the player's control that might have kind of helped him sneak his way a little bit further in the game than he might have gotten.
Yeah, and he was going to go home, I think, at least two times, maybe even three times, and he pulled out immunity. And, obviously winning immunity isn't a bad thing, but when I look at this list and I rank my winners, a winner that needed a lot of immunities, I don't have ranked as high. It's just, I don't, do you agree with that? I just think if you're relying.
I look at it under the circumstances of winning the immunity, because like somebody like Tom Westman won 5 immunities, but Tom didn't really need to win all of those immunities. He just happened to win them all. Bob needed to win the immunities. Somebody like Brian Heidick didn't have to win all the immunities. And that's kind of like, I don't know, like I have to look at where they needed it.
I'm not looking just plainly at the number and saying, oh, they won this many that I'm going to put them down. I'm saying, like, I know they were going to go home for sure if they didn't win. That's when it kind of tarnishes a win. And it's not like, yeah, I mean, you did the right thing. You won immunity when you had to. Yay. But when, I look at a Survivor game player, and this is kind of saying I favor strategy more, and that is a little bit true, but it's more about you put yourself in a position that you were going to get out, and the only way you're going to get out was winning immunity. So
yeah, it's the Mike situation from this whole season where he just needed to keep winning. If he didn't win, he was going home, but he kept winning.
Right. Yeah, and I don't have Mike ranked all that high, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, 28th place, Natalie White. And I can already hear people kind of complaining at this one because that means that we're Russ Hole fans, as what people like to call him on the internet. My thing with Natalie White is I can only see what's on the TV. And what I saw, what was on the TV, she did nothing for me. She really didn't. And I really do believe Russell should have won the game over her. He might have been really annoying, but I think that you're looking at right here, our first 3 people, it's 3 really bitter juries. Even in Gabon, it was a bitter jury towards everybody hated Sugar. And Sugar made a lot of game moves. The same thing here. Russell was this whole season. Like, I know that it was edited that way, but he was the whole season.
Yeah, you had Natalie at 28th. So this is right where she fits with you. I had her a little higher. I had her at 24. We didn't get to see much of Natalie. I think she played a good game, and she helped with that Eric blindside. I mean, that's what a lot of people point to. That was kind of her move. But if Russell wasn't finding idols, if he wasn't getting John Fincher to flip, at least it appeared that he was kind of taking this foursome to the end. And I'm not saying Natalie – I still think Natalie should have won. And I don't think they were a bitter jury. I think they weren't mad at Russell for making the moves. I think they didn't like his personality. And they didn't want to award someone $1 million for being, an asshole. And Natalie made, connections on the jury and was a social player. So well done to her. I do think she deserved the win. I'm not trying to say Russell deserved it. But in terms of ranking 30 winners, Natalie really imagine Natalie without Russell's finding idols, without him making moves, without, him getting Shambo to flip. Natalie that probably doesn't win the game. So even though I think she deserved the win, she just didn't do enough, to be considered like a top winner.
Yeah, and I guess what it comes down to with this whole thing is, yeah, she got Eric out. Like, that was a great move by her. And after that, the numbers were 7-4. Like, that did nothing for – like, that was a one-move thing. That was like Malcolm playing the double idol for Reynolds and Eric and Eddie. I'm sorry, not Eric. Eddie. And that's it. Like, they got Philip out, and then they're still screwed. If Russell doesn't keep finding all the idols and keep on playing the game, because he had such a target on his back the whole time, they all wanted to get him out of the game. And, it was it was let's get Russell out, let's get Russell out, let's get Russell out. But he kept on playing, whereas Natalie was, she was more of a social player. But, in a season where you went into the merge down 8-4, and you look at how it played out, Natalie didn't do enough to turn the whole game. And if she would have been the one who turned the whole game and played the game nicely and did what Russell did, then it's like, she's probably your best winner of all time. But she played the nice card. Russell played really hard. And, he probably pissed people off, and that's why he loses, she wins, and that's why she's our 28th best winner.
Yeah, I think where I really disagree with you the most is it seems like you think the jury voted out or didn't vote for Russell because they think they were mad that he kind of put them on the jury. And I don't think that's the case at all. And I've said this before. I don't think they were a bitter jury about the game. I think some people probably said, damn, Russell's a great Survivor player, or great strategist making moves. However, he is just a asshole. He's not pleasant to be around. He has no social game. He didn't make connections with the jury members. That's a huge part of this game. And when Russell, he's really fun to watch. One of the most entertaining players I think this game's ever seen. And Heroes vs. Villains, he says, America should have a vote. And it just that's what really makes me not appreciate Russell as much as I used to, because that is Survivor. You vote people off and then you need them to vote for you. That's such an integral part of the game, and he just completely overlooked it. So I really don't think they were bitter or mad that they got voted out. They just didn't want to award someone $1 million who was just so unpleasant.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, you could argue. I think you can really argue both ways on this, and you could argue it, and both sides would make absolute perfect sense at the end of the day. But really, if it comes I'm almost where Russell's gameplay here was just so exciting, and he made a lot of big moves. It's the guy who made all the big moves, but he's still a dick, and you can't help it. But I get why they voted for Natalie to win. I just don't think Natalie was she's not a good winner.
Yeah, okay, she deserved it. We can move on. I think if you look at Tony, he blindsided a lot of people on his alliance, but he wasn't an asshole the whole time. And I think that's the big difference between Tony and Russell. People might compare them. They're running around finding idols. They're making moves all the time. But Tony was liked by, the people on the merged tribe. He, the jury, sure, that Trish got totally blindsided by her number one ally. But what does Trish do? She turns around and votes for him because at least while they were on the island together, he was, a good guy to be around. I
think everybody felt like it was too personal with Russell instead of gameplay, whereas people with Tony saw that it was gameplay instead of personal. Let's move on to 27.
Right. We have Jenna.
And if you did, go ahead.
I had Jenna at 27, so this falls right in. You were a little higher at 23.
Yeah, and this is funny because when we did our season rankings, this was the number one season, and here she is as our 27th winner. I mean, what it comes down to with this, I don't think Jenna played a bad game, but it's what you said. She needed to win those last immunities. If she didn't win those last immunities, she was done. And I don't feel like she really started playing the game until later. And this was another case where, I looked a lot at competition in this. And she got Rob at the end. She voted him out and knew she wasn't going to beat him. But Rob was by far the best player on that season. He just didn't get to the final two. I do look at a lot of who you played against, and she got Rob at the end, but Rob kept her around because he thought that she was just she was just dying out there,
Yeah, I agree. It's the immunity thing. It's not like she won one. She needed to win two.
And she won
back
4
to back.
Total.
Yeah, and she was a strong player. Again, she deserves to win, but she was almost going to quit. She was. If she's not there against Matt, who Matt just rubbed everyone the wrong way. She kind of cleaned up in the final vote just because her competition, like you said, was kind of weak. I'm trying to think who placed fourth that season.
Butch, he sucked.
Yeah, if she gets there against Butch, maybe it's closer, but Rob did a really good job of kind of getting his goats in line, and then Jenna just kind of wins the last. Did she win the last two or the last three? I think it's the last two.
She won the last two because they voted out Heidi and she didn't have immunity. And then it was supposed to be Butch, Matt, and Rob in the final 3. So she won the last 2, I'm pretty sure. But
Right.
you know what's so crazy about like hang on, you just talk. I need to think about what I need to say about Jenna Maraska because I completely just lost it. I had a really good thought and then it went away.
Okay, well, I guess the thing with Jenna Maraska is that, yeah, she's deserved to win clearly, like we've been saying. But you rank them. I mean, why do you think Jenna is better than Natalie though? I guess try to give me that because I know you have Jenna ranked 23 and Natalie at 28. So I think Jenna's I think Natalie is a better winner.
You know, what it comes down to with this is I think Jenna's season was a harder season to win, if that makes sense. I feel like I get like what Natalie did, but like Jenna and Natalie are very similar where they were both likable, quieter female players. But I think what ended up happening with Jenna was she was always more in control, whereas Natalie relied so heavily on Russell for a lot of that game, I feel like. If Russell doesn't have those idols, Natalie goes home eventually. But with Jenna, she was always in some sort of control as to knowing she wasn't going home. Like Jenna was never really in the minority until it got down to the final 5, and it was her and Heidi sitting there, and it was like, oh, well, we're done. And she was also never she was just never the biggest target. I don't know. I just feel like Jenna played a better overall game.
See, I have Natalie higher because I think Natalie had such a, she had a harder competition to beat in the final. If you look at Mick, who is a pretty likable guy, that didn't really piss anyone off, and then you have Russell, who is one of the best strategists, big move makers we've ever seen, and she has to go in that final tribal council, and she owns it. I mean, she killed the votes. And Jenna was just against Matt, who like no one really liked. It was Rob's GOAT the whole time. So I give Natalie respect for beating 2 other kind of players that you could see winning.
Well, I think Mick lost a lot of the respect of the players he was playing with, and that's why he ended up with no votes. I don't think the people out there really respected him. I think they thought he was kind of useless. But what I was going to say earlier is with Matt was like the early season Russell. Where now it's about strategy and how much you make people mad because you're screwing them over and dicking them. Back then, like I said, I just rewatched Marquesas. That was when everybody wanted to get to know each other and like really be friends with each other. And they were going out there for the adventure. And, this was when alliances were just starting to really, really, really take shape. Really Thailand and was like the biggest, like, hey, we need an alliance right now. Like it was starting to take shape in the game. And with like Matt, he was just such a weirdo. Nobody wanted to really be friends with him. And back then it was about who are you friends with and who do you like? That's who like was getting like, that's who everybody wanted to be with, because it was always like a family thing. Like with, you know what I'm saying? Like in Marquesas, they always felt bad voting each other off. So in Amazon, like nobody would have felt bad voting Matt off. In what do you call it? In Samoa, Russell was just a dick to everybody, but it was because he was blindsiding and treating people like crap, not so much as being a weirdo.
Yeah, I think he was also a dick, though. Just also kind of a mean guy.
He
was cocky, he was arrogant, he was unpleasant to be around. That's what everyone said. He was just like, even like take the game moves aside, he wasn't pleasant to be around. And I think what you're saying about friendships and stuff and all that you look at season 19, Samoa, where Natalie takes it, she won because she developed like friendships with the people she sent home. And that's what you have to do. And I give her a lot of credit for that.
I think
move on here.
I was just going to say with Matt, I think he was just a socially awkward guy more than a dick.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't think he was trying to be mean.
Right. No, I understand that. Okay, now we have at 26, we have Fabio.
Yeah, and I recently rewatched Nicaragua, and I still don't like that season. But Fabio was an interesting case because he's a really likable guy. He's another one where it's like I liked him from day one, but it's the whole he had to win 3 immunities at the end, or was it 2 or 3?
It was 3, and that really does dock him because I really like him as a player, a character, a winner. He did a lot of things that kind of go unnoticed, unseen. He played dumb a lot, and then not to have his head in the game and did that really well, and that kept him around. And then he, went on the run at the end. So I have him at 22. He would be a lot higher if he didn't need those immunities, but that's why he falls so low.
Yeah, I had him at 27. I had him below Bob, below Jenna. It's just with Fabio, like it was the competition on the season wasn't overwhelming. I thought Marty was a player. And other than Marty, Brenda really didn't. I mean, Brenda, I'm going to take the high road and not do much, and she wasn't going to defend herself and all that. Sash was playing, but Sash was Russell and Matt rolled into one where he was he was bad in all ways possible. But that like Fabio didn't have to go up against all the competition that some of the people that we have higher than him had to go up against, and the people who are above him didn't have to win all the immunities just to get there too. So he has a lot of knocks against him. Even though he's a super likable guy, and he pretty much saves Nicaragua by winning it, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did have some moves. I remember he something about the Neonka vote. Like Neonka vote wasn't red, and he I think he told people that he voted for Neonka when he really voted for Brenda, something like that, which set up kind of. I forget. He did something really that went kind of underground where a vote wasn't read, and he used that to his advantage. Like a really smart move when you're looking at votes that aren't read because they don't need to be, and lying about your vote. That's really, I mean, that's a game move. And then I really loved when it was him or Benry going home, and Fabio just kind of laid back and chilled while Benry ran up to Sash and Chase saying, "Look, I'll do whatever I can take. I'll jump with you guys. I want to be in this game." And Chase and Sash were like, man, Benry's here to play. He's going to do anything he can to win. Fabio's just kind of hanging out. And then Fabio has a confessional saying, like, I'm not going to try to make them think I'm going to do anything to win. I don't want to be this big threat. So even though Fabio was the more, athletic guy, physical threat for challenges, Chase and Sash, in the majority, they got rid of Benry because they were worried about, him doing anything to win. And that's just such I don't think people don't think that's a move, but that's what saved him. That's what got him so far.
And that's another thing with Fabio. He was on the wrong side of the numbers the entire game. He was always the minority alliance on the LaFleur tribe when he started. Like he was one of the 3 or 4 that he was with Kelly Bruno and was Alina. Like he was on the side that people really didn't want to align with for some reason. So he was constantly against the numbers. Fabio didn't play a bad game. Like he still won the game, and he beat Chase in a 5-4 vote. Like he played good. He won when he had to. He had the whole clutch factor. It's just that when you look at him, as in like the hierarchy of like Survivor winners, it's like, well, what, like Fabio wasn't against the best competition. He had to win the immunities at the end. He didn't really make any huge moves that really like set the game in motion. He was never in control of his own destiny. Fabio has a lot of knocks against him.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. I think he should get more credit than he deserved, but he's by no means like a top 10 winner or anything like that for the reasons you just said. So I'm happy to move on from Fabio.
All right. Here we have a tie for 24th, 25th. We have a tie and we couldn't break it. It's actually between Cochran and Vecepia, of all the people to be between. I mean, I know Cochran, that might seem low to some of you for being that low. I want to talk about Vecepia first because I just finished Marquesas. In my opinion of Vecepia could give Amber a run for her money as being like the worst winner. And
not at all. Whoa.
Dude, whoa. I felt like, and I get that Vecepia played a very good social game, but everybody on that season played a very good social game. I don't feel like any of them played a bad social game because, like I was saying, that was old school Survivor when it was like everybody wants to go out and be really good friends and all this stuff. Vecepia had to win the immunities at the end to get there.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did. Oh, well, she screwed. Okay, yeah. In the final 3, she pretty much screwed Kathy over by saying, I'm not going to win, so I don't have to make the decision so that Nalia can take it and make
Which is brilliant. That was like a total like perfect game move. That was perfect.
I do not. I think Vecepia.
I think you wanted Kathy to win. You're kind of bitter about that.
I didn't like that.
Vecepia owned that move. That's like a top 10 move of all time, I think. One of them, honestly.
Okay, you can say that. But what I'm saying is with Vecepia before that, she had to win the immunity. She, the whole Purple Rock thing happened. I feel like Vecepia out of all the winners, had the most luck on her side when it came to this. Because I felt like she was always she wasn't very strategic. She was very social, and that's really all she did. I feel like I just do not like Vecepia. I didn't really get a read on her. I didn't really get to like hear what she was thinking all the time. It was a lot of like, like she was always talking about like her religion and all that stuff, and her bond with Sean and her bond with all these people. But I just didn't feel it. I felt like everything was fake and forced, and I don't know. I don't like Vecepia as a winner. I think that I had her at the 29th winner. I really think that her and Amber both like. They didn't do anything really like to get there.
I can't believe you're grouping Vecepia with Amber. Like that seems absurd to me. I had Vecepia at 18th. I think is this the one we disagreed on the most? You had her at 29.
This one in Cochran. This is where we had the biggest disagreement because they were tied on.
Okay, so Vecepia, once she got low in the numbers, I think it was maybe after a tribe swap. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen Marquesas in that long. She started kind of befriending the other tribe, kind of getting in their good graces. And Rob, this is when first season Boston, he calls it up like V is playing. He says V is playing this thing. She's working it. She's kind of getting in everyone's good graces. Like this was Marquesas. This was season 4. This is before heavy strategy. She was just being a social player and one of the best social players that. She worked herself, into the majority when she kind of got screwed by, she didn't have the numbers early, got into the majority, and then pretty much never was too big of a threat, won some immunities, and then that move at the end, because Kathy would have destroyed her in a final tribal. She sees, Kathy's done. She lets Nalei just win because she knows Nalei is going to take her over Kathy. And then it was a Hatch move, it's what Hatch did. It was like, I can't believe you're putting Vecepia in with Amber when she like pulled a very Hatch-esque move, and Hatches, I think we both have Hatch like in our top 10. So,
well, here's my biggest problem with Vecepia though, to get there, like everything that happened before that, when they made the move on John at Final 9, Vecepia really didn't have anything to do with it. Nolia made that whole move. And I'm not saying Nolia should have won this game by any means. I don't think Nolia played a very good game. I really don't like Marquesas very much. And still on a rewatch, I don't like it very much. But the thing is, like, Nolia and Pascal made that move. Like, they were the ones who were like, yo, we're doing this. And the one who convinced them was Sean. Like, Vecepia didn't really convince them. And that changed the whole game. And then I feel like Vecepia and Sean, when they had the swap, Vecepia and Sean were still on the bottom. They were going to keep Boston Rob longer than Vecepia because Rob was like, oh, she's working it. But they were still like, hey, we can see through what V's trying to do here.
Yeah, but she still managed to get through, and she went along. She stayed. She made the right moves in the votes because like, what if they don't get the numbers? Then she's still okay. She played kind of in the middle. She was one of the first people to kind of float and kind of play both sides so that no matter where the numbers fell, she was gonna assure herself a pretty good spot. I think I can't believe you just watched Marquesas and still are grouping her with Amber. It's bizarre.
I didn't like it. I thought that she wasn't like, she didn't really do much. I mean, I get that you're saying that last move was like Hatch-esque, but that was like the only thing she did.
She floated in between both sides, and then
so did Bob.
Made friends with everybody. But yeah, she was doing it intentionally. Bob was just kind of like, I want to be a Boy Scout and win some challenges when I didn't even know my name was on the block against people that don't even, are running around with their heads cut off. I like Vecepia. Anyway, we can move on. We disagree. It's fine. It makes for a good conversation, I guess. Makes it more interesting. We can get to Cochran now. So you had Cochran at 18 is what?
Were you at Vecepia?
I had Cochran at 29, honestly.
Because that's what had happened. We just flip-flopped Vecepia and Cochran. Do you want to go first and tell me why you hate Cochran in this season? Or not so much hate him, but just
I don't hate Cochran. If we're ranking, ranking the winners' games. First of all, this is his second time playing. That's one of the knocks. If you win on your first time, you get more points. Just how it goes. So that's a knock right there. And then who you play against, that's huge. He played against half newbies, right? This is fans versus favorites too. So that's a huge knock there. You've got a huge advantage coming in that you're just playing with people who don't really know what they're doing. And then Knock 3, this wasn't even fans. Like, they weren't really fans. If you want to look at Micronesia and say, wow, those are fan favorites right there. You have Parvati, you have James, you have Penner, you have Ozzy, Amanda, like people that really were big stars or favorites. Sorry, these are favorites. These weren't favorites in Fans vs. Favorites too. They weren't. You have like Philip, Francesca,
Brandon.
Brand. Yeah, what his competition was so weak, and then like you always say he had so many friends playing with him that he was an alliance from the start. His competition was so weak. I think it's one of the worst wins ever. And at least he did a lot of things, but he had such an easy road, and he really didn't do all that much. So I have him just above Amber.
Okay, yeah. So this is I think with Cochran, and I completely get everything you just said because I hate Caramoan. I think Caramoan's a bad season. I was reading Dalton Ross's season rankings, and he had Caramoan I think at 10, and I was like, what? Like you write for Entertainment Weekly and have Caramoan at 10? But okay. Anyway, aside from that, the thing with Cochran was, I agree, the competition was terrible. The fans were horrible. The favorites were horrible. Everything about this was bad. He had friends coming into it beforehand. So this was a tricky one for me to rank because I could have easily dropped him down way lower. But the thing with Cochran was, it's almost like the Boston Rob win where it was so dominant the entire time. Like, did Cochran ever get a vote before the final tribal? Did he ever get a vote?
I'm not exactly sure.
I'm not 100% sure, but
even if he didn't, it's like I still don't give that. I really.
I'm just saying he dominated that game from beginning to end so hard, and yeah, I'm the biggest hater of that whole thing where I say he definitely had friends out there. I think I scream conspiracy theory at Caramoan. Like I can't help it. I thought the season was terrible, but I just feel like he dominated the game so. Like he just everything that he wanted to happen just happened. It just went right down the line where it happened.
Yeah, he wanted Eric to get medevaced at Final 5.
Well, okay, Eric. Okay, that's different. I would have loved to see if Eric wins the season. It's the best season of all time because
it's not the best, but it's like Eric very well. If you look at
Eric,
he could have very, very well won those last 2 immunities and like swept it. Like maybe not swept, but he would have easily beaten Cochran. So. I think
so you pull out the one thing that he couldn't control because Eric gets medevac. Like everything else in that game went the way he wanted. He wanted Eric in the final 5.
Yeah, but I guess like he knew Eric before the season. Like they were friends, and like Andrea and Dawn. This thing was so set up. This was such an easy road, and I have him. I mean, I have him at 29. I have Boston Rob's win at 28. So I think these are very similar games. I think Rob's game is a little bit better because he came in as only one returnee without very many friends, and that's hard to maneuver out. You can get a big target on your back, and he kind of just was a puppet master, and it was great. But that was his 4th try. I'm grouping those two very, very close, very similar wins in my opinion.
Yeah, Cochran did not have a vote against him before it. I'm just saying Cochran was never the target. He was the head of a big alliance, and he was never the target. I am at 18. I don't have him very high. Like I'm not saying Cochran played a really good game. I'm just saying
it was so set up. It was so set up for him. Like
I agree with
you. Easy. And I'm not saying it was some big conspiracy. It's just the way that all the casting went, and that it was a Fans vs. Favorite season. It just everything was like, it was his game to lose since like the first day. And he didn't lose it because he's a smart guy, but like it doesn't take that. Wasn't that impressive of a win. We can move on though, unless you have anything else.
No, I just want to let everybody know I did not like that season. I did not like the way Cochran played. I just feel like Cochran, like because everything went the way he wanted, it's hard to knock the guy all the way down to the bottom to 29th place when somebody like Vecepia, you have at 18, who was never in control of anything. That's all I'm complaining about.
Okay, I do hear you a little bit. I probably am knocking too low, but I just am not impressed at all.
I'm hearing me a little bit too. So if you want to unplug your headphone a little bit, grazie. All right. Next, what place is this even? Now 23rd place. Now this one's going to be a little shocking to people. We separated her seasons. So 23rd place, we have Sandra from Pearl Islands. Is that 23rd? Yeah, that's 23rd. 23rd place, we have Sandra from Pearl Islands, but we separated the two seasons because, they're 30 different, we wanted to base it on 30 different seasons of gameplay. So this is
that's
Sandra
totally
Pearl Islands.
Yeah, Pearl Islands. I think the Outcast twist really benefited her here, and that's kind of the biggest knock, I would say. I mean, she goes in the final two with Lil. It's like, yeah, she played a great game here, but I mean, I was way more impressed with the Heroes vs. Villains game. That was a beautiful, well played game, much better. She didn't do all that much. I mean, she worked her anyone but me strategy to a T, and it worked, and it was definitely an impressive win, but not more impressive than what did I have her at? I had her at 21. So I have 20 other wins better than hers.
Yeah, and with her, this is another one where I look at like on this season, the Outcast twist was huge to screw people over. But like when I'm looking at like people who were like really like deserving, to have Lil sitting there at the final two against you, I really believe that anybody else other than maybe Burton, who really rubs people the wrong way, but a lot of these other people on this season sit next to Sandra at the final two, and they probably win. Because Sandra was lippy, and she was a loudmouth. Johnny Fairplay would have beaten Sandra. I'm like 85% sure on that.
Oh yeah, I think he was making moves the whole game. He was a really great player. I think he ticked people off, but Sandra ticked a lot of people off too. Mm-hmm. I think Burton even beats Lil, but wouldn't that be the craziest final two if it's Burton Lil, the two people brought back? Oh, yeah. Outcast?
Jesus.
Again, this was a good, well played game by Sandra. It's just not enough to really put her in like a top 20 even for me.
And here's another one though. She didn't get a single vote cast against her before the final. She didn't win an immunity challenge. She didn't win an immunity challenge in either of her seasons, which is kind of funny about, the two-time winner of Survivor never won an immunity challenge. And she never received a vote the entire game, which really, that's impressive for as lippy as she really is.
Yeah. It's an impressive win. I guess I just don't have much else to say. We have her at 23. I feel like that's pretty close to where I would rank it.
Yeah, it's a season, so it'll always. I mean, I think it was just voted on the Facebook group for Survivor. It was just voted as like the best season ever, like or that at least that group's favorite season. And I just can't get over the Outcast twist, and that kind of knocks her win a little bit. I mean, I feel like that really screwed some big game players. Burton coming back in the game totally screws Rupert. It totally screws Krista. Like it really does. So. Lil coming back in gets rid of Savage and Rhino. Like, I don't know. It's just Sandra got a couple lucky breaks there. Not saying she's not a great winner. If we were doing it based on both her seasons combined, she'd probably be our top 2 or 3,
Probably number 1. I mean, if we're going to combine them.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then we have Ethan at 22. I watched Africa probably a year ago. This is early Survivor where it's like you don't really need to make that many moves. He was just an all-around good dude. I don't know how else to put it. Lex was kind of the strategic force of this game. Kim wins immunity, and then boom, Ethan's headed to the finals. I think if Lex wins immunity, I think he wins, and if Ethan wins, he might even take Lex. Or do you think he was kind of brutal enough to off Lex and take Kim?
No, I just watched the season. I'm pretty sure Ethan would have ended up taking Lex. This was another one. Like I've been kind of going in a little bit of an order here, where I watched Africa not too long ago, and I just watched more cases. But I love Ethan. I've said this a couple of times now, which doesn't even make sense because I said it with Fabio, I said it with Bob, and now I'm going to say it with Ethan. Loved Ethan was my favorite from day one, and I liked Lex a lot too. But the thing with Ethan was he played the nice guy so much. Like he played up like how great of a guy he was and everything. It just wasn't exciting gameplay. He never had to make a big move. He never backstabbed anybody. He got to the end being the nice guy and showing that, hey, you can just, do whatever you need to do to win the game. He had it. The other tribe that they were up against, the one that started with Brandon, Silas, Frank, Teresa, that tribe was never a competition for his tribe because they hated each other the whole time. He got in his alliance with Kim, Big Tom, and Lex, and the 4 of them just walked to the end. I mean, there was no way that the 4 of them weren't going to be the final 4. So
yeah, everything kind of went his way, And I think a player, if Ethan played that same game like now or even season 15, halfway through the show's run, I think he's a big threat immediately, and he gets voted out. So this was just early on Survivor where you could just kind of like, oh, get your people, waltz on down, just be a nice guy. And it's just other winners have had to do just so much more than Ethan, but you got to respect his social game. And
you have to.
Yeah. And I think that's why I had him at 23. Where do you had him at 21?
I had him at 21.
So yeah, right there. I think that's a good place for him.
And one other thing I have to say here, and I don't know if this is like a common theme. I'm on the Survivor Wiki thing, and I'm just finding this kind of shocking. Ethan also did not get a single vote against him during the entire game.
There you go.
I mean, you have somebody like Lex Lex got 10 against him, and Ethan didn't get one. So.
And then if Lex were to get to the end, people will be like, "Damn, I tried to get this guy out, never could do it." That's impressive gameplay. If Lex wins, he'd be a very very good winner. Okay, we have now Rob at 21. I already told you I had him at 28.
I had him at 16.
Wow. I mean, it was such a dominant win, but this is his fourth time playing. It's against all newbies. The other tribe, had Russell. They were throwing challenge to get him out, which Rob can't control that, obviously. But a lot was just in his favor. Yeah, he did a lot to win here. But I can't say, I can't look at this and not think about, wow, this is his fourth time. Everyone else, this is their first time. It's just not fair. I
think I can say this pretty much confidently here. If this was his first time playing and this was a normal season of Survivor and he played it the way he did, he'd probably be the number one winner of all time.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Probably.
He did nothing wrong his entire game. And the only reason I have him so high is because it was such a perfectly played game. The competition was garbage. And the one thing that he did really well in this season, he knew that him and Russell were going to have a target on their back when they came in. And he came in and he pushed that target right to the side. He did it so effortlessly. And yeah, it was a messed up season. His tribe was just a bunch of zombies following him around. He had Philip, he had all that. But he found his zombies. And he was just like, hey, you guys follow me. I'm going to take you to the end. Nobody's going to vote for me to win. And then he ends up winning anyway. And in probably the most dominating performance. But I can't put him at number one. It was his fourth time playing. He's playing with a bunch of newbies. This is at the point in the show where it's not just people who are super fans like you and me playing the game who know it inside out. He's playing with a guy like Philip. That's who finished second place on his season. Philip Shepard finished second place on his season.
And Natalie Tannerelli, who just followed him blindly and did whatever he said. If they had really gotten some good players on this season, I don't think Rob stands a chance. This was just no competition. I think that one guy, Dave, I think he was a really smart player, but he was on the other tribe with Russell.
That was David. He was the one who proposed to Carolina whatever. Yeah, he was on Russell's tribe to start.
Right. And I think maybe if even he ends up with Rob, I don't think Rob can pull it. Honestly, all it takes is one brain to be like, dude, we gotta off this guy. I think what helps Rob the most is that he actually is very good at challenges. And a lot of that comes from he's played Survivor 3 times before. He knows the puzzles, what kind they're going to be. He has tricks. He's a good swimmer. He's physical. That really helps him. So they can't really get rid of him right away. And then once he has his, blind zombies, it was just a cakewalk. It was a victory lap. It was just, I can't rank this season. It's so hard to rank the season because, yeah, he played so well, but it's his fourth darn try. And like you said, if this wasn't his fourth try, this is his first try, probably best game ever. But because it was so dominant, it was dominant because it was his fourth try. It's like cause and effect. You can't even bring that up. If this was his first try, because so many of the reasons he won is because it was his fourth try.
Yeah, it's true. He knew every little aspect of the game coming into it. And you're coming in with a bunch of people. Grant, who was cast because he had cool dreadlocks. Philip, who was cast because he was a little crazy. Andrew, who's cast because she's cute. Ashley, who's cast because she's cute. This wasn't this wasn't hey, we're huge fans of the show. It was Russell's tribe had the strategists, and Russell tribe got demolished because they wanted to get rid of Russell so bad they threw a stupid challenge, and then that's it. They get rid of Matt at the merge, and his tribe can never recover. That whole other tribe could never recover, and that was it. Rob, this was probably this is my least favorite season of the whole show. So,
all right, I think we're good on Rob here.
All right, so 20, top 20, yay. We got Mike. Worlds apart, Mike.
Yeah, I have him pretty low. I have him at 25. So you had him at 17. It's just like he won 5 immunities and played an idol. He was always going to go home. Very little strategy. I think the move at the auction, you have to pull the trigger on it and then share it with your alliance to get them back on your side. That move set him just so far down. If he knew he was a threat, maybe keep Joe around a little bit longer if you can. That's what good winners do. I think he just in his competition for these immunities. I mean, Sierra was like supposedly like the second best competitor, even though she never won. People were saying how she was really athletic, and then you have like Carolyn who won a couple, but one was boy girl. They did 2. He didn't have much competition in these challenges. It was just, it's like any time he lost, he would have gone home. How can you like rank that as that great of a win? I can't.
I completely hear you, and I think mine might be a little bit of recency bias. And I mean, Mike, let's see here. With everything Mike did in the game, I think he played really well pre-merge. I think he played really well up until oh my God. This just happened. I can't even think of it. He played really well up until the auction thing. And I think that him not sticking with that win is really what knocks him, because it actually made the season more entertaining, because if he doesn't do that, he probably walks to the end and wins even easier. Like, I still think he wins the game, but he probably does it so easy.
I would rank him much higher if he had stuck with that. I doubt Jeff is going to give Carolyn a refund on her letter. He gets those extra votes. He still has the idol. Everyone's already mad at him anyway. He's already at the bottom. I think a similar thing happens, but maybe he doesn't have to win every single darn challenge. So it's impressive that he won. I get he won, but if you're going to rank like challenge beasts, I wouldn't even consider Mike. Like, I think of like Terry and Colby, and I know Mike won so many, but it's like he really wasn't beating that great of competition.
No, and that's really, I mean, Mike wins 5, but you look at somebody like Ozzy or Tom Westman who win 5. And I mean, Tom Westman was up against Ian every single time. He was up against Greg every time. You got Ozzy who's up against Yule, who, I mean, look at Yule. Like, and plus anything with a puzzle. Were there any puzzles in Cook Islands? I mean, I know you just rewatched it, but Penner could have beaten Ozzy in a puzzle, and you would think Yule would have beaten Ozzy in a puzzle. So, like,
yeah,
those were up against competition.
Yeah, that Ozzy was crazy good at challenge. I mean, that's like when you think Mike. I still don't, even though he just won 5, I still don't even look at him as like a big challenge guy, even though that was his entire win. He relied on that. And the worst part about it is he even called it. Like, once Joe went home, he's like, I got to win every immunity from here on out. That's my plan. It's like, try to emphasize that. I don't know. I got him at 25.
Yeah, I have him at 17. It's the same thing with Cochran and Rob. It's not a great win, but I mean, I don't know.
Okay. 19, we have Danny Boatwright.
Danny Boatwright is always a fun one for me, because we both love saying how underrated she is.
Yeah, I had her at 19 exactly. So this fits right where I would have her.
I had her at 22. I don't know. I like Danny. What's up?
We really didn't get to hear much from Danny, which was the unfortunate part. She was worried about production, spilling her secrets. So I hope she was one of the early ones to suggest I'll only come back for an all-winter season. Hopefully that happens, and hopefully they say, look, you can tell us whatever you want. We're not going to screw with you. I would have loved to hear more from her, because I think her game is probably better than people realize. But she did a pretty good job floating, and this is why I can't believe you have Sepia at 29 and Danny at what do you say, 22? Yeah. I think any 2 wins, I think theirs are very, very close to each other. They kind of didn't have the numbers, but they kind of floated in because of their good social games. They weren't too threatening. I mean, I had Danny 19. I had Vesepia 18.
Well, okay, I only have them 7 apart, which really isn't much. I know I ripped on Vesepia's win, but I guess what it is with Danny's is I just think the competition in Danny's season was so much better. I don't know if that sounds crazy because we never got to see somebody from Guatemala ever again, but I just feel like Danny's competition was so much better.
Yeah, I mean, you had Rafe, who was a good player. I think if it's Rafe, Danny, Rafe probably wins. Stephanie was a total goat. No one really liked her, even though she was such a fan favorite from Palau. I think she was never really going to win. And then Judd, I think he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and he was a
Gary.
fun, entertaining character. And then, yeah, I was just going to get to Gary. Yeah, he was a great competitor, but you know, she's the one that called him out and kind of put the target on his back. He was a challenge beast. He goes out. I think, yeah, it was a really fun season. I actually liked the cast a lot, but to say the competition was good, I think it's kind of a reach. I think you have Rafe and you have Gary and you have Danny. Like Cindy was that, wait, is that Cindy or Zoe?
It was Cindy. Cindy could have won.
Cindy, I mean, how do you not give a car to 4 people? I still don't know how she pulls that. That might come back to bite her. I don't think her social game was probably as good as Danny's. If you look at, what was it, Wanda?
Lydia.
Lydia, right. Lydia, I don't think she was really ever going to win. She was kind of just hanging out. So when you say competition, I kind of disagree.
I honestly think that in Marquesas, I don't feel like many of them really, like, other than John Carroll and Sean, Pascal, Nalia, Kathy too. But like Pascal and Nalia, they were just kind of like they could have won the game, but like they weren't really but they weren't really playing the game.
That was also season 4, so it's hard. It's, you know, this is very early on Survivor. It's hard to say. I mean, we're looking at season 11. It's the game. The game has changed by this point, and I think there was. I mean, Nalay did a great job of kind of playing up her innocent cuteness. It worked for a long time, and then people started to call her out for it, and she kind of got caught in that, kind of playing that up too much. I think she definitely was playing, and then Pascal was. I mean, if he makes it to the end, I think he wins. Everyone loved that guy. And then, yeah, V, Kathy, I don't know. I think similar wins, and you have them not so far apart, but definitely, you know, far apart.
I guess what it really is with the Danny win. When I say better competition, I mean, I feel like it was harder for Danny to get through the game than it was for Vecepia. Like, I feel like Danny had more people who were really playing the game to win the game, whereas in Marquesas, if you were playing the game to win, you were in John's alliance and you didn't have the numbers after John went home. Or, like, I don't feel like Pascal was really playing to win. I don't feel like Nalia was really playing that. I mean, Nalia, a little bit. She probably had more going on than we saw, but I don't feel like they were really playing so much to win as they were just to, like, have the experience and, you know, like, make friends. Whereas in Danny's season, I mean, they all hate each other. Like none of them really get along. I mean, none of them been asked back, so I'm assuming production doesn't love them because it is a memorable cast. Like, I don't know. I just feel like she was against harder competition.
Okay, yeah, I hear that a little bit, and again, I think a lot of that has to do with just the era that the seasons came from. I still think that Danny and Vesepia's wins are very, very close. But do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. We have at 18, we have Tyson.
And this is one of my favorite players of all time. So I had him actually below 18. I had him at 19.
And I had him at 20.
So just the way the adding added up. But yeah, Tyson's one of my favorite players of all time. Tocantins Tyson is probably the funniest thing of all time. But, you know, here he is sitting at 18. It's one of those, he played 3 times. Like, he played 3 times. He played with half of a cast that had never played before. And then the other half, it was kind of like with Caramoan, where you had people like Jervis who hadn't played since season 1. You had Monica, Kat, like they weren't Colton, who we knew was just out there to be out there. Like, you know, he had half a cast that, yeah, they were bigger, they were better players with Hayden, Sierra, Caleb, all that. But, you know, still, he had half the cast that had never done it before, and he'd already done it twice. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I knock him here for having played 3 times, and someone might say you have Cochran, who played 2 times, I have him at 29. Rob, who played 4 times, have 28. Why is Tyson? Why do I have him all the way up at 20? And pretty much, I look at the competition here, and you hit a lot of the names: Vitas, Sierra, Hayden, Caleb, all players in this game. And then you look at who's on his own tribe. You have Aris, who won the game. You have Tina, who won the game. You have Jarvis, who's actually, he played with his head this game. And I know there were some. We did have Kat, we did have Monica, but I think his competition was just so much greater than either Rob or Cochran's season.
This really should have been the heroes or the fans versus favorites, because these were the favorites. Like, not so much Kat, but like people liked Monica. People like Jarvis. Like, people had wanted to see Jarvis play again for a really long time. People love Tyson. Rupert comes back. Everybody loves Rupert, and except maybe not now, but everybody loved Rupert. It felt like more of a cast that like people actually wanted to see, as opposed to just what CBS was trying to do to try to create drama before they even got on the show. Aris, maybe not a favorite, but definitely a huge strategic force who's on this list,
Yeah, and I think Tyson also had like kind of a target out on his back a little bit, and he really had sifted through. I think he played a very good game in Blood vs. Water, and it was his 3rd time. I guess the competition is why I have him.
Yeah, I agree. I had him at 19. It's just a shame that it took him so long to actually learn how to play the game. And if Rachel doesn't go home as early as she does, I don't think he ever wakes up to it.
Yeah, that's one of the other things. This was the first Blood vs. Water season with lots of kind of redemption island and maneuvering, and you could switch spots, lots of stuff to maneuver there. And that was kind of an interesting twist they had to throw in, and that Tyson had to kind of play through.
Well, since we're the podcast of segues, though, at 17 we have Aris.
Yeah, I had Aris. When I was making my list, I kept thinking, what, Aris did play a really good game. He wasn't the most fun player to watch or the most entertaining, but he played a darn good game. I had him at 12.
Yeah, I had him all the way at 24. I don't know why I put him below Jenna Maraska. Not that it would have changed where he actually was, but he's better than Jenna Maraska. I don't know why I accidentally did that. But Aris, okay, so let's say I had him at 23 instead of 24. I guess my biggest thing with Aris is, he was in control the entire time, and I respect the way he played that game, but it was easy pickings. It was almost like Rob, where he had his zombies. And I guess, I should probably put him a little bit higher, but I don't know any big moves he really made. He didn't really have to do anything. I don't know. Maybe I should have Aris way higher than I do.
Wow, I can't believe you had him that low. That's really surprising. These weren't zombies. That's what's so different. These were people that were nuts, crazy.
Suri. Yeah.
He kept them all together. You look at this tribe, and this is why they're so infamous. Like, they were just they were crazy. You have Shane, you have Courtney, you have Bruce, you have Danielle, Suri, Aris, and he kept them. Somehow they always stayed strong, even though they always had internal problems, always yelling at each other, going nuts. Shane was about to quit, and Aris knew he needed Shane as a number. He kept him in the game. Aris did a lot to make sure those people were voting the way he needed them to vote.
Yeah, I think Aris, I do think he actually played a good game, and it's one of those, like, I haven't seen Panama in a while, and all I really remember from that season is that he had the numbers the entire time. He pretty much controlled the entire thing, and he was just never the biggest threat or he was never like the next one on the chopping block, where it was like they always needed to get Terry out. But then it was like, okay, Bruce gets medevac. Well, we need to get Courtney out. We need to get Shane out. And then, finally gets down to Final Four and he wins immunity. I don't know with Aris. Aris, it's so tricky with these winners.
Think about that.
I don't know.
Think about that. Think about this. He's on a tribe of in his alliance of just bozos, right? And then you have like Suri with him. And Suri is, regarded as one of like the best strategic and best social players to ever play. How did Aris make it to the end? Who is saying we need to get Courtney out before Aris? Who's saying we need to get Shane out before Aris? Who's saying we need we need to get Suri? Suri got third, but she did get third, right? Or was it Terry.
Suri got fourth. Terry got third.
Suri got fourth. He did a very good job of keeping like that threat, off his back, and he was the only one that could kind of challenge Terry at these challenges, and maybe that's why they kept him around longer, because they wanted him to beat Terry. But at some point, like, you would think his alliance would say, "Yo, we need to turn on Aris." He never let that happen.
Yeah, he didn't let that happen. He had good game management. I don't know. I really don't.
I don't really fault someone for being in the numbers since the beginning.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that can happen. That either 50-50. I mean, we fault Fabio for kind of not being in numbers and having to win immunity, and then we're faulting Aris for being in the numbers. It's like it's gonna happen. You either are or you aren't.
It's kind of how I praise Brian, because he had the numbers the entire time. I guess with Aris, it's just like he was so much quieter about actually taking the control of it. And yeah, he was the one who was in control of it because he had to keep all those crazy people in line. But I don't know. Aris's game, I probably should have it higher. I'm saying that right now. I probably should have it higher. I think 16
rewatch. You need to do a
I think 16 is a good, or 17. I don't think that's a terrible spot for Aris, though.
I mean, I have him above a lot of people that would probably surprise you. I mean, I think he played a better game than Yule. I'll get into Yule's game. I have a few problems with Yule's game. Aris was never really vulnerable. He really played a very tight, solid game. Let's take it to 16, where we have Sophie.
Is this the last one we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the end of part 1. Sophie at 16.
You think Sophie played a better game than Aris?
Let me see. Where did I have Sophie? I have to tell you after I look. Why the hell can I find? I had her at 20, so really not much further. I had her ahead of Aris. Not much ahead of Aris. I think Sophie played almost like the she almost played like the Natalie White game, except she had to keep Coach and Albert and Brandon and all of them in line. And I feel like she was the one who was actually keeping them in line more so than Coach was. Like, I feel like Sophie really had like a good grasp on, I can keep everybody in my good graces, but I can do it quietly and I don't have to be in your face the way Coach was with this was the season with incredible religion where they're praying after they win a challenge and Ozzy's like kicking a wall. And like, it's like, wait, what am I watching right now? So, like, I thought that, like, she played a really good under the radar. I think she plays one of the better under the radar games.
Yeah, I really respect Sophie as a winner, and she was one of the highlights of that kind of dud of a season. I have her at 14, which is pretty high. Her final tribal council performance was great. It was amazing. It was one of the better ones, probably a top 5 final tribal. And like you said, she kind of had to keep everything in line. She was a little bit under the radar, but she always had her head in the game. I mean, she had just like graduated college, I think, was headed to med school. I think she was 23 or something, and kind of just worked all these adults into kind of what she wanted to have happen. And the big thing about the season was Redemption Island and Ozzy. And that was kind of the big threat to her. And then when it came down to it, it was Final Four immunity. She was the one who finally beat Ozzy and prevented him from getting to Final Tribal. And even if Ozzy gets the Final Tribal, she might have a case. And I know a lot of Ozzy's friends were on the jury by this point, but she might have a case saying, look, Ozzy was voted out of this game twice. I mean, one time it was on purpose so he could, come back into the game after winning a duel. But the second time they wanted him gone. So it's like no one who has been on Redemption Island has made it to the end. We haven't seen that argument play out, but I think it's a pretty darn good one. So even if Sophie doesn't win that, I still think she has a good shot at winning. I respect her game a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like Sophie wasn't going to be the one who went home, I don't think, at 4th place. I think it would have been Albert or Coach if Ozzy wins.
Exactly.
But she knocks out. She didn't have to win it, but she wins it and knocks out Ozzy and really takes any question out of it and puts it all in her hands. I mean, even if she went there, I think that she still could have. I agree with you. She might have been able to beat Ozzy, but you got to remember, like, all of Ozzy's friends were on the jury. Like, you are right about that. So she didn't have to win it. This isn't like a Jenna where if she didn't win, she was going home. This just made it easier for her to win the game. And I think that Sophie really, if you go back and you look at that season, which I know like I really don't like to do because I didn't like South Pacific very much, but I think she played a very, very good game. And she's just a little quiet and a little boring, and that's really why a lot of people don't really give her so much credit. I mean, I even had her at 20. I probably could have had her higher, but
Yeah, she was kind of a bratty sometimes, a little annoying for sure. But again, like Aris, like he was pretty boring at times.
which is probably why I have him so low because I haven't seen Panama in a while.
Yeah,
So,
I would definitely rewatch that. Pay attention to what he had to do, and that's why I have these winners higher than you. I'm not taking into account. I tried my best not to take into account their personalities, or I would have Tyson as a top 5 winner. Not what Boo did. So that's the first half of the rankings right there. Thanks for watching. I don't know when we'll do the second half. Probably sometime next week. I don't know.
yeah. We're in the off season. We can hang out and chill. When we have the time, we'll do it because we don't want to rush through it. It's kind of like what happened with our season rankings. We just kept on trying to find the time, and then we'd feel like we were rushing. So we're going to try to do this and not rush. So
Yeah, we have 15 more winners. See how it all shakes out. Thanks for watching.